Hello, welcome to Making Marrok, a series where I try and build a Inquisitor Marrok costume from scratch. Yeah, I'm gonna go over obviously the plan, not that there is one, what I'm going to do, and how I'm going to do it, and take you along that treacherous road with me, as best as I can, or I'm willing to, because I'm very inconsistent with uploading, as I'm sure people are familiar with. So this could be the first and last installment, but regardless, let's just get into it. I guess there's no point doing a big intro of anything, because it's non-essential. So let's just... So, further expanding on the plan of what I'm going to do. The goal is to get as close to Maul Shadow Lord animation Marrok as possible. I'm going to be trying to use EVA foam, which is a new medium for me as well, which is its own set of challenges. But I'm going to try and use EVA foam for the bulk of the armor due to the size limitations of my 3D printer. What I have here, I've planned out sort of, for the gauntlet, I have a pre-existing pattern that I've looked at, and I'm going to try and to create the effect that we see here on Marrok. I'm going to try and, separate pieces and layer them on top and blah, 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 blah. And separate ideas for things like the gloves, simple enough shape, blah, blah, shoulder pad. I have a couple of options of shoulder pads I was going to look at, and then add that shape thing. The chest is this whole other thing. Things like the leg, and you get the idea. So that's what I'm going to do for the armor. Make it out of EVA foam, learn how to use EVA foam and that entire process, and make the armor with it. Helmet wise, I have 3D files from Galactic Armory that I have printed. And I'm assembling to a degree at the minute. Yeah, I guess that's the objective, is to make the suit. I'm not going for full screen accuracy because that's a little bit ambitious for my first time with the material. And because, even proportionally, it's animation as my reference, so obviously things are gonna look different whenever they're on me. So as long as I have the gist, as long as you get the idea, then I think I should be okay. A lot of that will be done through the paintwork, which weirdly will be one of the easier parts of this process, I think. But that's essentially what I'm planning to do. Also, with the lightsaber, hold on, which I have here. The general idea is to, have this, obviously, I have it 3D printed and ready, and insert some form of lightsaber blade that's removable in one end. That's whether or not electronics will be involved or not, I'm not sure yet. It depends how close to my deadline I am. A deadline of mid-June? I'm filming this on the 17th of May. But I've just said that, and I might be like, oh, that's not much time for a full costume. I know. But I've started stuff already. That's the plan. The plan is to make Marrok and his lightsaber and his helmet and all of that. How? We've kind of been over there. EVA foam and 3D prints. I pointed the wrong way. 3D prints and etc. So that's the plan of what we're going to do. That's the objective. Will I accomplish it? Maybe. Hopefully. I'm going as fast as I can. I'm actually being weirdly good with trying to get something knocked off the to-do list every day. And hopefully now I will bring you all with me on that process. So yeah, let's move into what I've done, I guess. As for what I've done, this is when things get a little easier for my deadline. I have microphone warble. I have done a decent bit. For example, here on my desk at the minute, I have just dropped one. I have some of my shoulder pad pieces. You can see them there. These things, which I'm going to stick. Sorry, flipping you off there. Which I'm going to stick on top of each other, on top of the shoulder pad. Speaking of shoulder pads, I've had big advances with learning how to use EVA foam. There were a couple of drawbacks, but I suppose we'll get into that later. But for the most part, things like gluing, cutting, tracing out patterns and stuff, definitely a learning curve, but after a few times and some repetition, it's getting better. I'm sort of using all of the smaller parts of the armor, so the gauntlet, the arms, the legs, the hand stuff, etc., as like a starting basis to learn the skills needed to make the chest, because the chest is the sort of thing I'm going to have to almost entirely design myself from scratch, like no pattern, no nothing. I have a loose plan of how to tackle that, of a pattern that I will make, and then use that as a basis to draw on the new shape that I need onto it, or whatever. But let's look at some stuff I've done. So, I started off with trying to make gauntlets and get them sized correctly to me, which was a process, resulting in a shockwave cannon, which I made out of my casts and scraps, which I think is quite cool. Very logical, you could say. Here is the box I'm keeping all of my things in. So, there's the gloves, as you saw on the screen there a minute ago. These are the pattern-y things I'm going to apply to the gauntlet, as I showed in my diagram earlier. I'm sure I will put it back on screen in post. My gauntlets, which I did with some Velcro on those, hot glued to the inside, and they do fit me. After all those attempts, I hope. Both of them. I have yet to apply the pattern onto the gauntlet and figure out how to get the big ring extra detail on the end of them done. Move those somewhere. I have my most recent developments of the shoulder pads. This was the first set of things I was gluing. Working with contact cement was, I thought, going to be really difficult, but, well, I mean, it was at the start. All these things were difficult to start, but they've gotten easier. So as I showed for those other pieces a second ago, if I can grab one or two of them. These, I'm not sure if I'm going to have two stuck together or three stuck together. I'm not sure what thickness yet, but those will essentially sit stuck together on there like that. If I could, like that. So then there's, yeah, they look like that. For my hand things, I just did some basic shapes. I don't think I'm going to do the whole knuckle related thing for the hands because I cannot be bothered. Then we have the main attraction.
Tell me everything.
The Marrok mask. And we have the helmet. So the helmet's definitely been the easiest part by far because I'm not new to 3D printing. So we have the bulk of it. Hold on. Sorry, let me... I can't see a thing. Ooh, around in there. This does not look good on camera. Ah. We have magnets installed in both pieces, front and back, to allow assembly. The Galactic Armory file suggested rubber bands for the inside, which didn't seem particularly feasibly safe as like a good, like there had to have been. I thought to myself, there had to be a better option. There's got to be something else we could use other than elastic bands to keep these two things together and still be sort of movable, so you can get your head in. And some magnets was the solution. The helmet isn't finished yet because these are the side panels of the helmet, and if I pull it up, these are these. Now on this, you can see there is this little triangle-y thing here. This little triangle thing was this is a live-action helmet, and I'm obviously going for a more animation-style thing, as I said. That's my references. Maul Shadow Lord Marrok. Which means there won't be any like rust detailing on my paint job or anything. But then he has this, right? This little triangle, which is a light, and that little divot. But on or in thy show, as you can see, like here and stuff, my camera's kind of covering it. Okay, I pick a different area. Okay, see like here? Yeah, there you go. He doesn't have that. It's just a flat surface. So to do that, a little bit of masking tape, one of my favorite contraptions, masking tape and some poly filler. We are going to, it doesn't really show up on the camera, but essentially there's no, I mean, you can see there's no hole. Before there was a hole. There isn't now, and we're working on smoothing that out as best as possible to be more accurate to that. Because the big things for making the Marrok costume look like Marrok is the helmet, number one identifier to be like, that's Marrok type of thing. The priority design element of his character. The second is the chest piece, which is its own thing. But like the things to get as accurate to the screen as possible are the helmet and the chest piece. Everything else can be slightly different in shape and, you know, maybe slightly shorter or slightly bigger or whatever, and it won't look too out of place. Those two particular things are important. Don't know why that warrants a thumbs up, but they're important. Is that all I've done? Doesn't seem like a lot. Probably because it isn't, but regardless, we're getting on. What I'm doing next, still holding this, but the next thing will be either applying these little shapes onto the shoulders. Be one potential path I go down. It could be sticking these onto these. I have left markers, but I doubt in this damn Reaper mask if I'll be able to see them. Yeah. Gluing these onto there. Or leg work. Legs have been interesting. That was today's main development, apart from cutting out those shoulder details. It was today was the day of the legs. Don't know if anyone saw behind me. There's a lot of paper on thy bed, thy resting place. That is because the legs was today's main obstacle. So far, here are the results. It doesn't look like much, but there was a lot of mental upwards battle or whatever to get here, and there's a lot of paper on the ground, I assure you. So today's thing was the legs, right? Which was this. My initial idea was to take pattern A and pattern B and combine them. I would use pattern A as a basis in 5mm EVA foam, so thicker EVA foam, and then take pattern B in 2mm EVA foam, so thinner EVA foam, and essentially just wrap it around the bottom, rather than trying to like stick a more rigid, geometrically shaped leg, shin, greave, whatever piece to a more organic looking one. It's like I'll just overlap one on top of the other. That was the plan. that's kind of still the plan. However, when resizing the patterns to fit my stubby ass legs, I encountered problems of getting the pattern to the right length meant the pattern was way too thin. It would never wrap around the entire leg. It would wrap around the entire leg, then it was too long. So I essentially, for pattern B, had to hand draw on some cutouts. For it, I will get them now. Pattern B, which I did here, and you can't tell because I haven't shown the pattern. The pattern, as you can see, goes a lot. Where's my mouse? Goes a lot like longer down than mine do. You will notice, hopefully, if I can keep these in camera well enough. The shapes are different. These ones are the two on the right. So I had to use my artiste skills, and on the bottom, sort of redraw the bottoms of them and the outer line to make them the same length. It was easier to do that on the pattern size that was too big, therefore too long, but the correct thickness, than it was to draw on that extra stuff on the correct length and incorrect thickness, for obvious reasons. So reformatting pattern B was not that big of a deal. Pattern A was a different story, because I noticed while I was going through this entire process of struggling to get pattern A resized to the correct measurements for my weirdly shaped appendages, I encountered an issue where I discovered that this was shaped differently to this. Now I know if you look at the images and you see that's a thin, rigid shape with two flatter things, and this is meant to be rectangle, 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 where this is rectangle, non-rectangle at all, or whatever, and thin and blah, blah, blah. It's not shaped the same. That never really clicked until I was physically doing it. I did my first instance of the classic thing that you see every EVA foam cosplayer ever do, which is the film wrap followed by duct tape strategy to make a pattern yourself, which is these that I did today. Here they are. They are obviously separated. They're separated, but this is white duct tape, and there's the film underneath. But essentially what I did was, like, the key thing that I needed was this front strip, because it gives it that bigger geometric feel. I'm going to have to bevel the edges, I think, because that's what it says to do on the original A pattern. Yeah, on these it says to bevel the edges of the main strip there, which was going to be really difficult with a strip that thin, which would be easier with this. I'll probably just Dremel those down. I don't have any of these cut out into foam yet, because they've only kind of been traced. For some reason, the left and right pieces didn't translate the best. But these two things are not the same shape. The proof of that is still on the floor. These are two different sizes. Most definitely. I'm sure anyone could tell you that. This one, I don't know. I mean, I did this one first, so I'm probably more partial to this one, which is why I've written on it. I'll probably mirror this one. Not sure if that will be reversed on the camera, but I'll probably go with this one, because I don't really need everything to perfectly connect at the back, because I will just employ the same strategy that I did with my gauntlets, which is, drumroll please, Velcro, which I already showed up, which should be my way to just fasten everything. Just some hot glue and some Velcro strips, which I have a great deal many of from previous costumes. You do not want to see that floor right now. I have some of my finished patterns that I've used. In fact, these are the only patterns that I have used. And almost all of them have had to be modified. Well, first of all, downsized, because of my proportions. And then the shoulder needed to be reshaped to be more angular, because Marrok's is. The gauntlet needed shortened, and then a little bit of extra stuff thickened. The middle part of the shoulder didn't need touch. And then this is just a little shape I drew myself. Those are the only patterns I've used. And surprisingly enough, at least for me, EVA foam disappears really quickly. I have tried to be as, I don't know, eco or whatever as possible and use up every last piece of a sheet, which is going okay. But I'm definitely probably going to need more before I even remotely begin to start the chest. But I think that's everything that that's the plan, the immediate plan at the minute. Make these into accurate paper patterns, put them on the EVA foam, test it out, try and make one, glue one, see if that works. Shoulder pad, decide whether 2 or 3 of these little strip things for the detail is too thin or too thick. And finish the gauntlet. Ah, yes! The gauntlet. The gauntlet. So, there's that, right? C, B, A. B is done, as I showed you. It's close enough. C, same thing. B is a little bit further down, because in some shots in Maul Shadow Lord, Marrok's B section of the gauntlet is closer towards the wrist, whereas in some, like this one, it's farther away. But to get that shape to be distinguishable enough on my smaller gauntlet, it had to be further down. And because I kind of want to mount A onto a piece open slot, A is the problem though, because in certain images like this, you see it looks like a little bevel, foam bevel ring type of thing. It looks like a little loop. And in those too. But that on some, or on others or whatever, it looks almost completely flat. Why? I don't know. I feel like they would have used a different Marrok model across the show, but like here, looks like a big loop thing. Here, looks entirely 2D. I don't get it. I don't know why, but if anything, I'm going to curry more towards the 2D type of shape. But it seems to be there's a bigger section towards the elbow, whereas it's smaller on the inside of the arm. How I'm doing that shape precisely, I'm not entirely sure yet. Other thing with the lightsaber, I need to find a way to magnetically, well, I mean that's the strategy, but to hold it onto the back of Marrok, and not weigh the suit down too much. And I think magnets is the way to go, but it's just how do you apply magnets to EVA foam and still have it strong enough to not flop or fall apart. How? I don't know. If I actually edit all this and upload it before I finish the costume, then I suppose people can let me know. Yeah, that's the goal, exactly, or that's the goal, pretty much. I also want to do some voice-related stuff with him. I have a voice effect, but I'm not sure how I would engineer that into the helmet. But at the end of the day, that's not essential. But the things that are essential, I've kind of covered. Oh, actually, one last thing, the cape. I am going to do the cape. At least I plan to. And again, I think magnets up. It's on his right side's up like here, up there type of thing, will be the best idea. So that he can do his, or I can do the whole thing and flip the cape off. Yeah, and then paint-wise, airbrush for most of it, because I discovered during this entire process of research and YouTube tutorials and stuff that spray paint cracks under any form of tension when it's applied to EVA foam, so it is off the table. I suppose it's still on the table for the helmet, but I don't want the finishes to be too different, so it's probably just off the table. It's good that I know that, but it's kind of like, this would have been a whole lot easier to apply that base coat with that. That is the other thing. Paint. I need to try and figure out a way to create the desired dark metallic finish, and then any of his little like highlight edges and stuff, just gonna dry brush on with paintbrush. But I need to do a bunch of paint tests on different sample pieces of foam, practice pieces of foam, practice pieces of 3D print PLA to figure out what paint I can find that is the best. And then once I can figure out which paint is the correct one, I need to just go out and buy tons of it. So much of it. More than I would need. Because everything on this armor needs to be the same color. Which is both a blessing and a curse, because you have to buy a lot of the same paint, but you only have to buy one type of paint. So, you know, there's ups and downs to all of this, because I guarantee you there's going to be something else that goes wrong along the way, and another challenge. I'm not looking forward to the chest at all. Even getting the pattern I have sized to my dimensions, but I should hopefully in this video put up, I don't know, record myself making something else. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if this is going to be like a check-in type of thing of like what I did today, or if I'm going to actually do some stuff. Maybe do like a time-lapse type of thing. I'm not sure, but at least for this one, for this first video, I'm just going over what the idea is, what the plan is. So that's the plan. There you have it. Yeah. Bye.